Chapter 1. Born beneath the silent stars, the cradle of stars where silence is sovereign, a child is taken from the dust of Stygian, not torn in grief, but offered in fate, given to the temple, to the order, to the force. No mother's lullaby, no father's name, only the hum of cold corridors and the binding code etched deeper than memory. He was called Obi-Wan, though names meant little in those halls of marble and quiet. He was one of many, but the Force whispered something different in his blood. Not stronger, no, but more curious. A hunger not for conquest, but for meaning. He did not cry. He did not ask. He watched, always watched. Eyes wide to the ritual of the Jedi. Emotion as shadow, attachment as failure, peace as commandment. The children were taught to feel nothing and call it wisdom. He tried. He failed. He tried again. The Force became mother. The code, father. Their love was cold and endless, and yet, in his dreams, he saw oceans he had never touched, heard voices he had never known, a distant memory of something before, perhaps. Stygian, perhaps another life, but those dreams were forfeit. They taught him forms, first in silence, then in strikes. The lightsaber, not as weapon, but as reflection of the soul. He trained in line 6. He trained harder than most, not because he sought glory, but because stillness was unbearable. He feared what waited in silence. It was not darkness, it was emptiness. He rose early, slept late, meditated with effort, but never with peace. The other younglings found comfort in doctrine. He found it brittle. The masters called him disciplined, but some saw a different word beneath it. Unsettled time. Past without name. The temple aged him like a stone in water, and then the choosing came. Some were taken as Padawans, others were not. He was 13, alone still, a child of the code, but not of anyone's will. And that meant failure. To be unchosen was to be cast away, to the service corps, to duty without destiny, to a life beneath the stars, but never among them. Obi-Wan waited, silent. Still, the walls whispered of exile. He was nearly lost. Then came the master, Qui-Gon, Jinn, not in ceremony, not in prediction, but in contradiction. A Jedi known for defiance, for listening to the living Force, not the silent council. He saw the boy, and something moved. Not strength, not promise, but depth. Qui-Gon did not speak much at first. He simply watched. And then, at last, he chose. And just like that, Obi-Wan had a future again. The bond formed not as comfort, but as conflict. Qui-Gon was not kind, not cruel, but vast. He challenged rules, ignored ranks, spoke in riddles, and Obi-Wan, raised on law and clarity, chafed against him. They clashed in thought, in silence, in belief, and yet, beneath it all, a bond deeper than teaching was born, not father and son, not even master and student, but something more fragile, something unspoken, a need to belong. They left the temple, took missions, saw the galaxy. Obi-Wan saw hunger, injustice, lie wrapped in law, peace purchased by fear. The Jedi preached serenity, but the galaxy was not serene, and Qui-Gon refused to lie to it. He taught Obi-Wan to feel, then to choose which feelings to release, not suppression, but understanding. It was a heresy, softly spoken, but Obi-Wan listened. He followed, not always willingly, but always fully. One night, in the deep of a half-dead world, they lit a fire in the ruins of a village. Obi-Wan asked why the Jedi served the Senate. Qui-Gon did not answer. He only said, "We serve the Force, and the Force does not sit in chambers." And the silence after those words was longer than space still. Obi-Wan obeyed, not because he agreed, but because trust, once kindled, is its own kind of truth. He grew in skill, in presence, in conflict. He was not yet a knight, but already he was becoming more than a student. He was becoming a question, one that Force itself would soon answer. And in the dark of stars, a shadow began to rise, red of flesh, tattooed like scripture, eyes of hunger, a Sith, long thought extinct, now reborn, and with him the storm begins. Chapter 2. The blade and the bond. He was not chosen early, but he was chosen true by a master who did not seek soldiers, but seekers, by a man who bent the rules, yet stood straighter than most. Qui-Gon Jinn, he took the boy called Obi-Wan, and shaped him not with command, but with contradiction, where others drilled form. Qui-Gon taught pause, where others preached control. He taught presence, not the cold denial of feeling, but the choice to feel. And then released. Obi-Wan did not understand at first. He had spent his life among codes etched into breath and bone. But his master walked a different path, one that wound into thorns and truths that cut like knives. Their training was not quiet. It rang with disagreement. Obi-Wan was loyal to the Order. Qui-Gon was loyal to the Force, and the Force did not always agree with the Council's law. They clashed not with anger, but with fire nonetheless. On the training floor, they moved like mirrors out of sync. Strike and parry, thrust and hesitation. Obi-Wan sought perfection, Qui-Gon sought meaning. Both thought the other mistaken, and yet, in every argument, they drew closer, not because they agreed, but because they listened. Missions followed, each one a test, each one a lesson wrapped in confusion. They went to worlds where peace was built atop graves. They saw senators smile as empires bled dry. They were Jedi, but the galaxy did not care. Obi-Wan felt the fracture grow inside. The code said, "Do not attach." But what of the child starving in his arms? What of the mother crying as they walked? Away, he brought these doubts to his master, and Qui-Gon only said, "Feel it, let it break you, then rise again." This was not the Temple's way. It was harder, more human, more real, and still the bond grew, not love, not exactly, but something sacred. Obi-Wan followed Qui-Gon into battle, into silence, into heresy, not blindly but willingly, because he saw something in his master that the galaxy had lost, integrity, even when it led to exile, even when it meant standing alone. They shared firelight in the rain. They buried the dead side by side. They stood watch while senators plotted. They bled for peace. They healed for war. And slowly, without knowing, Obi-Wan became more than a student. He became a blade, sharpened by challenge, tempered by belief, but belief in what? The Council, the Force. Qui-Gon, he did not know. Not yet. One day on a broken moon, they came upon a shrine, a remnant of an ancient sect, neither Sith nor Jedi. Carvings lined the stone, two figures, bound at the wrist, both reaching for the same flame. Obi-Wan asked, "What are they doing?" Qui-Gon answered, learning that trust does not require agreement. Obi-Wan said nothing, but something inside him shifted. Years passed, the boy became a man, the Padawan became a sword, still in training but no longer uncertain. He carried himself with clarity, but his eyes still held the echo of doubt, and Qui-Gon saw it, and let it stay. Not as weakness, but as compass. Their final mission together began without fanfare, a blockade, a dispute, trade routes, ambassadors, diplomatic protocol, the kind of mission where nothing was supposed to go wrong. But shadows do not obey expectation. In the heart of the negotiation, a presence silent, burning, old as ash and deeper than night, a whisper of something long buried. The Obi-Wan felt it before he understood it. He looked to his master, and Qui-Gon simply nodded. Prepare yourself. They were thrown into chaos, ambushed, betrayed, running through a world they did not know. Naboo, a queen in exile, a child with destiny in his breath, and behind it all, a hunter with horns and fire behind his eyes. Darth Maul, the first Sith, seen in 1,000 years. Obi-Wan was ready to fight, but nothing prepared him for what would be lost. Not yet, for now he still had his master. And together they faced the growing dark. A blade and the bond. The fire was coming, and the bond would soon be tested by flame. 3. The Phantom and the Flame asterisk. It began as whispers, not of sound but of shadow, trade routes, blockades, droids and deals. A queen in peril. It was meant to be politics, but beneath diplomacy, something ancient stirred, a shape cloaked in silence, eyes like twin furnaces, skin inked with rage, a double-bladed blade, impossible, unseen since the fall of legend, a Sith, a name unspoken by the Jedi for 1,000 generations. But now, in the corridors of Naboo, that silence was broken. Obi-Wan did not know what they had found. Not truly. He had seen war, felt fear, faced pirates, assassins, traitors in silver robes. But this was different. It was not conflict, it was hunger. The hunger of something lost, and now returned. The dark side, not a seduction, but presence, alive, awake, and reaching. The Sith name was Maul, but names meant nothing now. He was not a man. He was a revelation. Teeth bared beneath tattooed flesh. A beast forged in hatred and shaped for one purpose, to kill Jedi. And he came with fire, not just in blade, but in belief. Obi-Wan faced him once, briefly, enough to know fear, enough to know he was not yet ready. And still, the Force pressed forward. Events unfolded as if scripted by something far beyond them. A queen on the run. A child with sand in his voice and prophecy in his shadow. And Maul, always watching. Then came the moment, the threshold, the fire, the battle for Naboo. 2 Jedi, 1 Sith. No words, only motion. They descended into the underworld beneath Theed. Metal catwalks, energy beams, silence pierced by violence. Obi-Wan fought with skill. Form eye, fluid, efficient, loyal. But Maul danced in death, spinning like a blade in the hand of fate. And between them, Qui-Gon, ever the calm, ever the center. For a time, they held their own. But time is cruel. The corridor of shields, pulsing walls of red energy, separating fate from mercy. Obi-Wan, trapped, forced to watch as Maul struck. As Qui-Gon fell, a single blow. a silence too loud to bear. His master, his anchor, collapsed in the breath between pulses. The shield fell, and Obi-Wan ran, screamed, struck, fought. Every motion was fury, every breath was grief. He did not fight to win. He fought to not be broken. And in the final clash, when the Force had no more mercy, Obi-Wan called upon something not in the code. Desperation, conviction, loss. He struck. Maul fell, but there was no victory. Only silence, only flame, only a dying master whispering a final wish into the ears of a broken apprentice. Train the boy. He is the chosen one. That moment split Obi-Wan in two. One part rose, a Jedi Knight, knighted not by ritual, but by ruin. The other part never healed. He had not been ready, not for death, not for legacy, not for him, the boy from the desert. Anakin chosen, but by whom? By the Force, by prophecy, or by a dying man's hope? Obi-Wan did not know. He only knew that he must obey, that he must honor what was lost. He would train the boy, even if it was forbidden, even if it was wrong, even if it would break him. The council hesitated. They saw fear, saw danger. They were right. But Obi-Wan stood firm, young, grieving, alone, and the council relented, not because they believed, but because prophecy is louder than wisdom. So Obi-Wan took the child, and in doing so, he became something new, not just a Jedi, not just a knight, but a mirror, a father to a boy with no past, a brother to a flame that could not be held, a jailer to destiny itself. The fire had not ended on Mustafar, it had only begun on Naboo, and the Phantom, the Sith, was not the true threat. The true danger was already at Obi-Wan's side, already smiling, already dreaming, already falling. The bond was broken, the Phantom defeated, but the flame had only begun to burn. For the boy and the burden, he was not ready, but he said yes, because the weight of a promise, made in dying breath, is heavier than silence. Obi-Wan took the boy, a slave, once, a child, still, with sky-colored eyes and a storm sleeping beneath them, Anakin Skywalker, born of no father, shaped by sand, touched by prophecy. The Jedi called him dangerous. The council spoke in riddles and restraint. But Obi-Wan had made a vow, and vows, once bound in death, do not break. They only break the one who bears them. He taught the boy to lift stones, to still his breath, to quiet the sea of his mind. But the sea was never quiet. Not in Anakin. He learned fast, too fast. Faster than any Padawan should. The Force did not flow through him, it obeyed him. Bended, buckled, broke. Obi-Wan watched in awe and fear, not the fear of failure, the fear of truth, that this boy may not have come to save the Jedi, but to end them. And still they laughed together, they fought together, they flew together, and something deeper than duty formed, not master and student, not mentor and ward, but something forbidden, a bond, something like love, something like brotherhood, the kind the Jedi feared, the kind the dark side would one day claim. Obi-Wan tried to teach control, balance, discipline, but Anakin burned through lesson and law like fire through parchment. He did not want control. He did not want control. He wanted justice. He wanted peace. He wanted to save the ones he loved. But love to the Jedi was possession, and possession led to fear, and fear. Obi-Wan saw it in Anakin's eyes, in the way his hands trembled when Padmam smiled, in the way he hid his pain behind laughter, in the way he dreamed of his mother, lost. Alone, every night, the Jedi told him to let go. But Anakin was not made to let go. He was made to hold on too tightly, too deeply, to love so fiercely, it would rot him from within. Obi-Wan saw it. And yet, he said nothing, because how could he too had loved. He too had let go. He too had buried want beneath the robes of duty. He was no stranger to silence, only to the honesty it denied. So he watched, and trained, and hoped, that this boy of suns and scars, might yet be what Qui-Gon believed might yet be the chosen one. The prophecy whispered of balance, but never spoke how it must come. Would it be through peace, or through fire? No Jedi knew, not truly, and those who claimed to understand were already blind. The Clone Wars brewed in shadows, whispers of separatists, assassins in white masks, galaxy fraying at the edges, and still the Council clung to tradition, as if old codes could stop new storms. Anakin grew in rank, in skill, but not in peace. He disobeyed, he questioned, he raged, and yet he was brilliant, a hero, a leader. The people loved him, the soldiers followed him, and Obi-Wan he still believed, not blindly, not easily, but because belief was all that held the fragile bonds together. He was brother to a flame, and that flame warmed, but also burned. There were nights Obi-Wan stood alone in the temple's quiet corridors, feeling echoes of things to come. Dreams, visions, fractures in the Force. He saw Anakin crowned in light and cloaked in shadow. He heard screams he could not place, saw futures he could not change. He knew, even then, that the boy he loved as brother would one day be the thing he feared most. And yet, he trained him still, because love, once given, does not return clean. It stains, it scars, it binds. Obi-Wan knew he was not enough. He was not the teacher Qui-Gon would have been. He was not the master the chosen one deserved. But he was all the boy had. And sometimes the greatest burden is not the war. It is being the only one left to carry hope. The war had not yet begun, but its seed had already been planted, and Anakin, bright, beautiful Anakin, was already beginning to bloom in the wrong direction. Obi-Wan saw it, and did nothing, because what else could he do? The burden was not just the boy, the burden was loving him. 5. The Clone Wars did not begin with fire. It began with questions. A silent assassin, a planet erased from archives, a dart, small, simple, that pointed toward something vast, Kamino, the Stormworld, the womb of war. There, in halls of sterile white, a secret long gestating was born into light, an army. Clones, 10,000, grown in vats, armored and loyal, bred not for peace, but for obedience. Obi-Wan stood among them. He watched the march of sameness, each face echoing the last, all created in the image of one man, Jango Fett, and yet the Council had not known, the Senate had not known, even the Jedi Keepers of Peace had not known, but the clones waited, as if summoned, as if the war had always been meant. Obi-Wan reported all, and was sent to Gunos. There, beneath crimson dust and stone spires, he found chains, found darkness, found Count Dooku, once Jedi, now cloaked in doubt and shadow. Dooku offered warnings, half-dashed truths. He named Darth Sidious. He spoke of the Senate's rot. Obi-Wan did not believe. He could not. To doubt the Republic was to doubt everything, Yet, doubt had already crept in, not only into Obi-Wan's thoughts, but into the cracks between Jedi and truth. Geonosis became the forge, a rescue, a battle, 1,000 lightsabers igniting at once. Blue and green against endless metal. The Jedi fought not as monks, but as warriors. Obi-Wan and Anakin stood side by side. Padme was with them. A triangle bound by war and love and ruin. They dueled Dooku. Anakin rushed, lost an arm, fell in. Sparks and agony. Yoda arrived, but even the Grand Master could not destroy the darkness. Dooku escaped. The war began. Not a single world at war, but all worlds, and the Jedi keepers of peace became generals. Obi-Wan wore armor, now. Clones saluted him. He gave orders that led to death. Victory became statistics, loss became routine, and still he followed the code, still. He believed in the Republic. But something inside began to erode. For every life he saved, he lost 10. More. For every city secured, another crumbled into dust. The Force grew turbulent, like a sea whipped to madness, and Anakin grew powerful. Too powerful they called him the hero, with no fear. But Obi-Wan knew better. He saw the fear, the rage, the love buried beneath control. He watched Anakin and Pod in silence. Said nothing, because what could he say? To expose them would be to betray them. To allow it would be to betray the Jedi. So Obi-Wan carried the secret, another burden. Another fracture. War brought victories, yes, but it brought visions, too. Visions of clones dying with his name on their lips. Visions of temples burning. Visions of Anakin cloaked in darkness, standing above a broken galaxy. He told no one, because the council did not listen. They sat in high towers, above cities of fire, and clung to tradition. They saw shadows, but not the one that mattered most. Darth Sidious, a name without a face, a ghost who played both sides, who moved senators like pieces, who whispered behind Palpatine's smile. Obi-Wan did not yet see it. Could not. He fought too many battles, too tired, too loyal, too bound. The Jedi did not retreat. They adapted. They compromised. They became what they swore to never be, and in doing so, they began to vanish, not in body, but in truth. The Clone Wars did not begin with fire. They began with faith, and the slow erosion of it. Obi-Wan stood tall, his blade always ready, his face calm, but inside, a question lingered. If peace is a lie, and victory is hollow, what then is the purpose of the Jedi? He could not answer, so he fought, and every battle brought him closer to the edge of something he could not name. The Clone Wars began with duty, but they would end in prophecy and in betrayal. 6. The war never ends. The Republic still stands, but only in name. Its heart is hollow, its blood is war. What began as defense becomes expansion. What began as duty becomes exhaustion. And what began as purpose becomes ritual, empty, endless, cold. Obi-Wan walks this path, not in robes, but in armor. Not among peace, but in ruin. He is a general now. No longer teacher, no longer seeker. He commands legions of men born to die. Clones follow his orders without hesitation, faces the same, voices the same, names borrowed, made each one, fading as quickly as it came, and Obi-Wan buries them in silence. No time for grief, no space for mourning. The war marches on, planets fall like dying suns, systems vanish beneath fire and ash. And in every battle, a little more of the Jedi vanishes too. They call him the negotiator. But there is nothing left to negotiate. Only objectives, only missions, only death. He dreams now, not of peace, but of corridors soaked in red, of temples aflame, of Anakin, always Anakin lost to something he cannot name. He wakes to orders, to briefings, to new fronts. Sleep is a kindness the Force no longer grants. He sees children in armor, aged by the acceleration of war. He sees Padawans too young to hold sabers, cut down by blaster fire, and still the Council speaks of balance, of destiny, of the chosen one. But where is balance in endless death? Where is destiny in the grinding wheel of battle that leaves no time to ask what matters? Anakin grows stronger, more daring, more feared. He leads with fire, fights with fury. The troops adore him, the Senate praises him. But Obi-Wan watches. He sees the shadows bloom in Anakin's wake. He hears the tension in every breath, the defiance in every word. There is love there, still, always, but love, too, becomes a burden, because Obi-Wan must protect him, and yet cannot save him. The lines between light and dark blur. Even the Jedi feel it. Some question the war, some abandon the order, some fall, one by one. Obi-Wan sees his brothers and sisters break under the weight of contradiction. They fight for a republic that no longer resembles its ideals. And in the Senate, Palpatine grows ever more powerful. Emergency powers, extended terms, secrets kept too well for too long. He is the eye of the storm, smiling, patient, hidden, and the Jedi still blind, still bound by procedure. Even as the galaxy drowns, Obi-Wan's missions grow darker. Infiltration, assassination, all cloaked. In necessity, he follows orders. But he no longer feels clean. On planets with names that vanish in days, he kills. To protect, to defend, to survive. But each act leaves a mark. And in the Force, he begins to feel the difference between silence and peace. He sees Anakin with Padma, not with his eyes, but with the Force. Their bond hums. It burns, it twists. He does not speak of it, not yet, because to name it would be to choose sides, and Obi-Wan, he still believes he can hold the center, even as the center dissolves. The war does not pause. It feeds on hope, on sacrifice, on memory, and in its shadow, the dark side grows. It coils in the veins of power. It waits in the corridors of Coruscant. It breathes behind the mask of law, and Obi-Wan begins to feel that they are not winning, not truly, that they are being led by fate, by fear, by a whisper in the Force too ancient to name. But still he fights, because it is all he knows, because if he stops, what remains? Jedi temples become ruins, code becomes compromise, belief becomes silence, and the war never ends. It only changes its shape. 7. The friend and the foe, they say, the war is nearing its end. But endings are illusions, and the shadows only grow longer. Count Dooku falls, struck down in the name of peace, in the hands of one who was never meant to be judge, nor executioner, Anakin. Skywalker, Obi-Wan, watches it unfold, not with his eyes, but with the Force. The act is quick, too cold. Dooku kneels, unarmed, defeated, and Anakin obeys. Not justice, not mercy, only silence. And then the blade. Obi-Wan is unconscious as it happens. When he wakes, The story is already rewritten, but the Force remembers, it trembles. They speak of victory, of strategy, of fate, but Obi-Wan feels it, the fracture deepening, the split between the man and the myth. Anakin is no longer just a Jedi, he is a symbol, a weapon, a prophecy in motion, and yet, still his brother, still the boy he raised, the flame he tried to contain, the friend he dared to love. But friendship cannot blind him, not anymore. He sees Anakin's growing bond with Chancellor Palpatine, whispers behind closed doors, secrets cloaked in mentorship, praise given too often, and too icily. The council grows uneasy. Mistrust grows like mold in the walls of the temple. Obi-Wan is sent to watch, to question, to ask of Anakin what he was never meant to ask. Spy, report, betray. And, in doing so, he breaks something sacred. Anakin looks at him with eyes not yet Sith, but no longer Jedi, eyes filled with disbelief, with betrayal. You want to spy on me? He does not shout, he simply breaks. And Obi-Wan, bound by duty, cannot deny it. A fracture, quiet but deep. Still, the galaxy does not pause. General Grievous remains, a monster forged from machine and memory, the last warlord of the Separatists. The Council sends Obi-Wan to finish what remains, to slay the final head of the Hydra. He obeys. He always obeys. But beneath the surface of war, a darker game unfolds. Palpatine reveals his truth. Not to the Jedi, not to the galaxy. To Anakin, the Sith Lord unmasked. Not with force, but with familiarity. Only through me can you save her. The words echo in Anakin's soul, twisting love into fear, fear into desperation, and Obi-Wan is not. There he cannot stop it. He cannot see it, because he is far away, hunting a ghost while his brother is devoured by a shadow. On Coruscant, Anakin kneels, not in reverence, but in surrender. The Jedi fail to see it. The Council fails to act. By the time they move, it is already too late. Anakin is gone. Vader has risen, but Obi-Wan does not know, not yet. On the surface of Utapau, he duels Grievous. Machines clash. The Jedi triumphs, but the victory is Ashdod, because even in triumph, something inside him withers. He feels it in the Force, a scream without sound, a light extinguished. Not just one, thousands, Jedi across the stars, falling, burning, hunted. Order 66. The command that turns allies into executioners. Clones, once brothers in arms, raise their blasters. Not in rage, in silence. Programmed death. Obedience without thought. The galaxy shifts. The Republic dies. The Jedi die. The war ends. But not with peace, with fire, with betrayal, with lies spoken as truth. And Obi-Wan, still alive, still unaware, he returns, not to celebration, but to ruin, not to a republic, but to an empire. And in the heart of this transformation stands Anakin, his friend, his failure, his foe. 8. Twilight on Utapau. 1,200 words, sacred, voiceover ready, narration listen now. To the hollow breath between betrayal and flame, to the twilight before the galaxy turns to ash. This is not a chapter of war, it is a quiet falling, a sun setting, beneath a sea of bones. Utapa. A world of caverns and teeth, its skies colorless, its people hidden in fear, its halls echo with the groan of machines and beasts. Here, General Grievous waits. not in defiance, but inevitability. Obi-Wan arrives, not as peacekeeper, but as the blade of a dying order. He wears armor over robes, doubt under duty. His hands are steady, but his soul is not. The clone troopers march beside him, white masks, silent purpose, obedient to a code they do not question. He does not yet know what they will become. Grievous is the last name on a long list of death, a relic of separatist terror, metal limbs, burning eyes, a collection of Jedi sabers that scream without sound. They duel, steel against resolve. Sparks fly from stone and skin. Grievous moves like wind through broken glass, unnatural, monstrous. But Obi-Wan, he remembers. He remembers training under stars. He remembers Qui-Gon's hand guiding his. He remembers that the Force is not power, but stillness within storm. And so he endures. He survives. He strikes. A blaster in hand, not elegant, not Jedi, but necessary. The monster dies. Not with ceremony, but with a coughing wail and flame. Grievous falls. The war, it seems, ends. Yet peace does not follow, for the Force howls. Obi-Wan senses it. A tremor beyond distance. A veil torn. Something ancient dies or is born. He reaches for the temple through the Force, but silence answers, and silence is worse than screams. Then comes the message. A flickering call in shadows. The clones have turned. The Jedi slaughtered. Younglings. Masters, friends, all gone. It cannot be. And yet it is. The command known now as Order 66 was not war. It was extermination. Across the stars, Jedi are hunted, betrayed by those they once led, and Obi-Wan, alone in the caverns of Utapau, must survive them too. The clones he once trusted now fire upon him. No anger, only programming. He escapes, barely. Each breath a rebellion, each heartbeat a funeral drum. He hides, disguised among the dust and fear, in the shadowed catacombs of Utapau. He becomes a ghost of what he once was. There is no glory now, only survival and questions. What has become of Anakin? What has become of the temple, and why? Why does the Force feel like it is screaming his name? He contacts Bail Organa, and from him learns what cannot be undone. The Jedi temple burns. The clones march beneath its ruined spires. The Republic is no more. The Emperor has risen, and Anakin Skywalker has vanished, but whispers remain of a masked figure, black as the void, moving through the temple with death in each step. Vader, a name, a curse. Obi-Wan does not yet understand it, not fully, but his breath catches. His hands tremble. Something is wrong, terribly wrong. He leaves Utapau behind, not in triumph, but in dread. The sun never rose there, only twilight, and twilight is where things end or begin again, in ruin. 9. Order 66. Sell me, for this is the breath when the Jedi fall, not in war, not in honor, but in silence and betrayal. It began with a whisper, a code spoken not in anger, but obedience. Order 66. 2 words, 2 syllables, and 1,000 lights go out. Across the stars, in jungles, in void, in cities of song and soil, the Jedi walk with their soldiers unknowing, unarmed in spirit, trusted in command, and then the betrayal. Clones turn, eyes blank, guns rise, shots. fired not at droids, but at Jedi backs, to fall in dirt, to die in disbelief, one by one, blade by blade, name by name. Kia demandi, Isla Secura, Plo Koon, Saints Ali, Masters, Knights, Padawans, all struck down in an instant that stretches like eternity. Not war, slaughter, calculated, cold, final, on Coruscant. The temple becomes a tomb. Children hide. Whispers echo. But there is no mercy, for something far worse than clones walks those halls. A figure draped in black, face sealed in steel, eyes once filled with wonder, now burning with fire. Darth Vader, he moves like prophecy fulfilled, an angel of death birthed from broken dreams. He enters the youngling's chamber. They ask him what to do. They believe in him. They trust his saber answers. Blue light, red death. No scream escapes the temple. Only ash and the hum of dying stars. Obi-Wan watches not in the moment, but later. In the recordings he sees what should never be seen. Anakin, his brother, his apprentice, his friend, striking down the innocent. Eyes yellowed with hate, voice silent with wrath. He cannot breathe. He cannot look away. Yoda watches beside him, and even the ancient master trembles. The galaxy is changed, not just in form, but in soul. The Jedi are no longer protectors. They are traitors, declared so by the voice of the Republic, now twisted into the Empire. Chancellor Palpatine reveals himself, not as a man, not as politician, but as shadow incarnate, Darth Sidious, the Phantom Menace, the whisper in the dark. The orchestrator of all, he claims peace, but brings chains. He claims safety, but births fear. The Jedi are hunted, the Republic erased. In one breath, everything Obi-Wan believed in burns. His friends gone, his order shattered, his pupil turned, and the Force feels cold, as if mourning, as if retreating. Only a handful remain, scattered, broken. Yoda flees, Bail Organa hides. Ahsoka vanishes beyond the veil, and Obi-Wan must make a choice to fade, or to act. He chooses the path of pain, not vengeance, but truth. He will face what Anakin has become, not to save the galaxy, but to honor the dead. The clones still hunt, not with malice, with programming. Their eyes do not understand. They were made for this. Not peace, not justice, but this moment. Order 66 was always the end. A trap set before the war began. Every battle, every skirmish, every command led here. The Jedi taught them, trusted them, now die by their hands. It is not anger that fills Obi-Wan. It is sorrow deeper than space, a grief that carves through bone and soul. He leaves the temple in secret, guided not by vision, but by memory. His mission is not survival. It is reckoning for the sins of the Order, for the choices made, for the future that dies screaming. And so, beneath a galaxy reborn in shadow, he takes the first step toward a confrontation. He dreads. He does not know that it will be on lava. He does not know that he will break. Only this, that Anakin is lost, and the Jedi are no more. The night has begun, and dawn is nowhere in sight. 10. The temple and the truth. The temple stands, but the light has gone out, not from the stars above, but from within. Where once children ran, only smoke now moves. Where once peace whispered, now echoes scream. He returns, Obi-Wan, Knight Master. Brother Wraith, He walks through ruin, feet silent on stone that still remembers joy. The doors open for him, not with welcome, but with grief. The air is heavy. The Force is wounded here. It bleeds, unseen, from 1,000 slashes, 1,000 broken bonds. Statues weep, holocrons flicker. The walls do not speak, but they mourn. And there, within the Hall of Records, a light blinks. A message remains. He plays it, and the truth begins. A chamber appears. Younglings afraid, but calm. They sense something, but not enough. Then he enters, Anakin still cloaked in blue. His saber hangs. His breath is shallow. His silence, terrible. Master Skywalker, a child says, "What are we going to do?" The answer is light. Cold, humming light. His saber ignites. Not red. Not yet. The children do not scream in time. The image cuts, but the knowing does not. Obi-Wan staggers. The breath leaves him. But the Force will not let him fall. Beside him, Yoda watches, eyes closed. Not in denial, but in knowing. He has seen empires fall. He has seen brothers break. But this was family. They speak no words. What can words do when memory has become ash? The temple has fallen. But the Jedi fell first. The order that raised him. The rules that shaped him. All of it was not enough to save a single soul from the dark. And now the dark wears the face of the one he loved most. Anakin is no more. Only Vader remains. And yet, in Padme's eyes, he sees the lie still breathing. She carries Anakin. Child, she believes he can return. She believes love is enough. Obi-Wan does not tell her what he saw. He does not speak of younglings or fire or the cold saber of betrayal. He lets her believe, because some hearts must die slowly, and some truths must burn alone. The Council is gone. The Jedi are dead. The Republic is dust. But one task remains. A wound left festering will consume the galaxy. He must go to MUSTAFA. Not to save. Not to heal, but to end what should never have begun. The temple doors close behind him. The archives flicker out. The stars do not shine for him tonight. And in the silence, the Force weeps. 11. The fires of Mustafa's sky is not sky. It is smoke. It is ash. It is the breath of a world choking on its own blood. Mustafar, a wound-made planet. The Force screams here, raw and unbound. The dark is not hidden, it rules. Open, defiant. Seething. Obi-Wan arrives as shadow. Not warrior, not master, not friend, just shadow. His heart is heavy, his steps slow. He is not ready, but he must be. Padme came first, carrying her truth like a torch into the den of the damned. And there he is, Anakin, but not Anakin. Something colder now wears his shape. Eyes like furnace glass, voice like broken steel. He holds Padme, but not gently. He speaks of order, of control, of peace through fear. Obi-Wan watches. He waits, hoping foolishly to find a crack, a tremble, a memory. But there is only fury, only fire. Padme falls. Not from a wound, but from a heartbreak. She believed in him, even now, even still, but belief cannot breathe in this heat. Anakin turns, blade drawn, eyes burning. You're with her, he accuses. Then you are my enemy. Obi-Wan does not flinch. He mourns. Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine, is evil. He pleads. You were the chosen one, but prophecy is dust now. The will of the Force, twisted. Chained, they fight. Not as men, but as myths shattering. Steel meets steel. Force meets fury. The volcano answers them, spitting molten earth, as if trying to erase them both. They fly on metal arms, above rivers of flame. Their blades paint light into smoke. Each strike is a scream. Each parry, a memory. Anakin is gone. The voice growls. And for a moment, Obi-Wan almost believes it. But somewhere beneath hate, beneath madness, the boy he trained still flickers. Still breaks. Obi-Wan sees it, and it nearly ruins him. But mercy has no place here. They land, their blades lock, and with one final cry, Obi-Wan strikes. Legs, arm, gone. Anakin falls to the bank of hell. He screams, not words, but wrath. I hate you. Obi-Wan trembles. I loved you, and he means it. Every syllable, but love cannot rescue what does not wish to be saved. He walks away. He leaves him burning, because to kill him, to end it, would be mercy. And mercy is a luxury the Jedi no longer possess. The lava swallows the sky. The smoke becomes memory, and behind it all, a monster is born in silence and flame. Not by Sith, not by force, but by choice. Darth Vader rises, but Anakin Skywalker is left to burn. And Obi-Wan, ghosted by grief, walks into exile. Not a victor, not a savior, but a gravekeeper. The Force does not sing, it sobs. 12. The twins and the Lysolans falls, but it is not peace. It is aftermath. It is the breath held between tragedies. Padme Amidala, queen once, warrior once, now lies pale as starlight, her heartbeat fading beneath the weight of betrayal. She speaks his name, Anakin, and even in death she does not let go, but the Force moves. Still, always, shaping destinies from ruin. To cries pierce the stillness of the galaxy. Twins, a boy, a girl. Born in shadow, wreathed in sorrow. Luke, Leia, children of fire and promise. Children of the Chosen One. They are innocent, and so they must be hidden. Not from war, but from him. From Vader, Yoda, wise and wearied, speaks the old words. The children must be separated. The future must be scattered like stars. Beyond reach, beyond fate's grip. Bail Organa takes the girl to towers and senators, to Alderaan serene skies. There she will grow amidst lies wrapped in love, a princess unknowing of her blood. The boy is given to the sands, to Owen, Lars, to Beru and Obi-Wan, no longer a master, no longer a Jedi. Becomes the watchman in the wastes, a shadow to a shadow. He buries his name beneath the dunes. The lie is sealed. It must be. Anakin Skywalker is dead. That is the truth the galaxy is told. That is the truth Obi-Wan must believe. But it is not the truth. In secret halls and scorched laboratories, the husk that once was Anakin is forged a new sinew wrapped in durasteel, flesh encased in a tomb of black. Darth Vader awakens, and in his scream the Force recoils. Padme's body is laid to rest, her childless corpse mourned by millions. Another lie, another silence, a galaxy sighs under imperial chains. Hope is buried in children who do not yet know who they are, and fear grows in the shadow of a throne carved from betrayal. Obi-Wan departs, not with glory, not with pride, but with exile etched into his soul. He becomes wind among the dunes, watcher, wanderer, wraith, Icarius. No sabi, only guilt he speaks. To no one, only the Force, and the Force does not answer. Not yet, but far beyond Tatooine's red horizons. Beneath Alderaan's calm light, two stars begin to stir in their sleep. The chosen one has fallen, but the cycle is not done. The echo of balance still stirs, waiting for the day when the lie will crack and truth will rise. 13. Exile in the dunes beneath twin suns that burn without mercy. The man once called Obi-Wan drifts into myth. Not hero, not Jedi, not even name, only shadow, only silence. The wind of Tatooine scours his skin. Its voice, ancient and dry, whispers, not of destiny, but of erasure, of small deaths, the kind that take years to complete. He builds no temple. He writes no chronicle. His world is a cave carved in stone and solitude. His temple is the endless sand. His prayer, WATCHFULNESS. Each dawn, he looks to the Lars homestead. Each night, he walks its perimeter in quiet steps, a ghost keeping vigil over the living. The boy, Luke, grows beneath other names, among moisture farmers and dust storms, unaware of the storm in his blood. Obi-Wan does not speak to him, cannot, should not. He watches from afar, a sentry carved from shame. Gone is the fire. Gone is the blade. The force that vast river he once flowed within is distant now, like a sea he cannot reach. He calls to it. It does not answer. Even Qui-Gon, the promise once whispered in dying breath, remains silent. The dead do not speak to those who do not forgive themselves. There are whispers in Mos Eisley of a hermit, a madman, a warlock of the wastes. He does not deny them. He does not deny anything. He merely endures. Bandits come, raiders, Jawa thieves. He avoids them when he can, ends them when he must. Each time the saber feels heavier, not from weight, but from memory. He buries the blade more often now, in the sand, in the mind, hoping it will stay buried. It never does. Sometimes he dreams of Coruscant, of Camino, of Mustafar, of Anakin. He dreams of laughter once shared, and of screams beneath fire. He wakes choking, always choking. He keeps a journal, not in ink, not in words, but in stone, etched with the Force itself. Silent records no I will ever read. A ritual of grief, a litany of blame, and still the child grows. Obi-Wan sees him chase womp rats with a stick, build toy speeders from scrap, stare into the sky. Too long so much of his father in him. Too much, he fears the day the boy will ask questions. He dreads the day he must answer them. Sometimes he thinks he sees shapes on the horizon, black shapes, cloaked and cruel. But they vanish in the heat. Paranoia, perhaps, or prophecy, hard to tell the difference, this deep into ruin. The days pass like sand between fingers, grains of isolation, moments lost, years, but something changes, barely more than a tremor. Flicker, like a breath held too long, suddenly exhaled. A presence, not near, but coming, searching, not for him, but for Jedi, for remnants, for ghosts who still breathe. He readies the saber once more, not to fight, not yet, but to remember who he was, and why he must never be him again. A storm is gathering, beyond the stars, and the exile must choose to stay buried, or rise when the time demands it, for the Force is not finished with him, not yet. 14. The shadow haunts the galaxy, does not forget, not truly, even in exile, even in silence, Even buried beneath the dust of time, the past sends its hounds. They wear black, they bleed red. They are inquisitors, once Jedi, now warped. Once protectors, now predators. Blades made from betrayal. They hunt not for peace, but for remnants, embers, ashes, and in the deep places of the Force, they taste his presence. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the hidden light, the one that slipped the purge. The whispers begin on distant moons. A hermit with knowledge, a fighter in robes, a man who disappears to isolate. They come to worlds dry and cold, to ruins and alleys, to Tatooine. He feels them before they land, in the air, in the bones of the sand. Their darkness echoes through him like an old wound reopened. He hides, he listens, he watches them interrogate, torture, destroy. For any hint of Jedi, he holds his breath, he clenches the Force like a wound. But sometimes he must act, a farm girl almost taken, a beggar broken for a name, a child nearly sliced for a lie. He stops them quiet, swift, unseen, a neck broken in shadow, a saber lit for a heartbeat, a whisper of light, then gone, but shadows remember. One inquisitor survives, scarred, hateful, sworn. She saw his face. She knows the smell of his fear, and she tells the others. He becomes not a rumor, but a prize. The one Vader could not kill. The one Vader still dreams of. The circle tightens. The net closes. Obi-Wan moves deeper into hiding, changes caves, covers, trails, whispers to no one. Even the jaws grow suspicious. He speaks to the Force more now, not in prayer, but in plea. Still, Qui-Gon does not answer, only the silence answers. Ancient, heavy, unforgiving, and in dreams he sees Anakin not as the boy, not even as the burning man, but as the black figure, breathing like thunder, searching for him through stars, sometimes. In the middle of the night, he wakes gasping, the name caught on his lips. Anakin, not Vader, never Vader. He cannot speak it, not yet. He wonders, will the boy on the farm suffer the same? Will Luke breathe the same fire? Will the shadow find him, too? He watches from afar, always watching, always waiting. But now he waits not just for age, not just for Luke to grow, but for the storm to break. He feels it coming. It is in the wind, in the sky, in the Force itself, restless and wounded. The shadow hunts him, but the light, even dim, even exiled, endures. ChatGPT said, 15. The spark rekindled, the silence is broken. Not by the Force, not by ghosts, but by a voice tired, urgent, real. Bail Organa, an old friend from nobler days. A senator once cloaked in light, now a father hidden in resistance. His daughter, Leia, has been taken, not by warlords or pirates, but by shadows disguised as men. The Empire moves in whispers. Bail does not beg. He invokes a promise made on dying breath, on firelit birth, on the broken cradle of Pod Amidala. Obi-Wan listens in the dark. He feels the call echo through the cave, through the sand, through the marrow of his soul. He says no at first. He is not the man they remember. He is not the blade they need. But the past does not wait. It knocks. It breaks in. Leia, the daughter of Anakin, the living spark of a dead fire. Obi-Wan buries his fear beneath tattered robes. He digs up the saber, long hidden in the earth. as if the ground might protect it from fate. It hums again in his hands, heavy, haunted. He boards the vessel. The stars greet him like strangers. The Force stirs it, wounded but awake. The hunter begins to walk again. On Dayu he searches. A city of neon, lies and filthy truth. He wears his age-like armor, his presence dimmed, his light cloaked in exhaustion. Yet the old instincts awaken. Leia runs from her captors. She runs from him. She does not know who he is. He barely knows either. But when she falls, he catches her. When she doubts, he listens. And when she asks if he is a Jedi, he says nothing. Because the word tastes bitter. Still, he protects her. He kills for her. Not as a warrior, not as a Jedi, as something else. Something forgotten, a guardian. The Inquisitors smell him. They come in numbers, in whispers, in blood. He flees again, not from them, but from the thing behind them, from the one they serve. He does not speak the name, not yet, but he feels it. Anakin Vader, the bond between them burns, rekindled, by motion, by memory, by the child he now guards. Leia, wise beyond years, asks him questions no one else dares. Did you know my mother? He nods. A wound reopened. Are you my real father? He cannot lie, but he cannot say. She trusts him anyway. He begins to remember, not just the battles, not just the failures. He remembers why he was a Jedi, to serve, to protect, to love without possession. The blade stirs, the fire glows. The Force does not roar, but it sighs, soft. Returning, Obi-Wan is not whole. He may never be, but the spark has returned, and the darkness has noticed. 16. Vader returns, asterisk coming up next. 16. Vader returns. The air was thin where the stars bled into shadow. Somewhere between the rim and the forgotten, a world hung adrift, cold, mind hushed by wind and centuries of silence. It was here that the blade would rise again. It was here that the shadow would return, and Obi-Wan Kenobi would be found. He had not spoken of the name in years, not aloud, not even to the sand or the stars. He had buried it like a corpse in his chest. Anakin, the brother, the burden, the fall. But the Force is not kind with forgetfulness. It whispers what must be remembered, and when it stirs, it does not ask permission. The boy had called him, not the one he lost, but the one he must protect. Leia, a spark of fire wrapped in royalty, unknowing of her blood, unaware of the darkness that hunted her through corridors of war and shadow. She had been taken, and the old promise had been called upon. Help her, Obi-Wan, as you once helped me, he had answered. Not as a Jedi, not as a warrior, but as a ghost in exile, drawn reluctantly from the sand. But now that ghost was hunted, and the hunter wore a face he once knew. The presence descended like frost through bone, not fast but inevitable, a cold beyond wind, a silence beyond silence. In that breathless dark, Obi-Wan felt it, the approaching abyss, a will wrapped in armor, a scream that breathed. He turned, and the galaxy ended. Vader stepped from the smoke like a nightmare made flesh. Black upon black, blade unlit, hands dead and burning. The rasping breath of machinery twisted through the stillness, a rhythm that mocked life and echoed death. Obi-Wan did not speak, but Vader did. I am what you made me. The voice was deeper than hatred. It had no human warmth. It had no doubt. It carried with it the sound of Mustafar, of screams beneath flame, of the moment the name Skywalker was buried beneath ash. Obi-Wan stepped back. The blade ignited. Blue, his hands trembled. The Force did not sing in him as it once had. It groaned, it resisted. He was not the warrior of the temple, not the general of the war. He was the wreckage of both. Vader advanced. No warning, no ceremony. The red blade bloomed like a wound in the night, and the clash was thunder. Obi-Wan faltered. His form was broken, his footwork hesitant. The weight of memory dragged each movement through molasses. Vader did not fight as a man. He fought as a storm, deliberate and unyielding. Every strike was punishment. Every movement, justice twisted by pain. The mask did not blink. The breath did not quicken. He hunted not to defeat, but to destroy. "You should have killed me," Vader growled, slamming his blade into Obi-Wan's with the fury of a star collapsing. Obi-Wan staggered. He barely held on. He saw Anakin's eyes in the flame, saw the boy on the ship smiling at Pam, saw the brother laughing in the temple halls, saw the fire take him, and he ran. He did not choose it. His feet moved before. His will through ruins, through fire, through shame. Vader pursued, not as predator, as executioner. The years of hiding fell from Obi-Wan like ash. He had lived with guilt. Now he lived with consequence. He remembered every mistake, every warning he ignored, every truth buried in the name of peace. The Force flickered dimly. Leia, he had to survive, not for vengeance, not for pride, but for her, for the future she would shape. He could not fall, not here. Vader struck again and again and again. Stone cracked. Air screamed. The blade seared past Obi-Wan's shoulder, burning flesh. He fell to one knee, gasping. "You were broken," Vader said. Obi-Wan looked up, and he believed it. But even broken things can remember who they were. Obi-Wan did not rise in anger. He did not rise with power. He rose with sorrow. "I failed you, Anakin," he whispered, voice shaking. "I failed you." Vader froze. Only for a moment. Then, fury. "There is no Anakin." The red blade lashed out, but it struck stone. Obi-Wan was gone, slipping into shadow, carried not by strength, but by will. He escaped. Barely he collapsed. Beside the ship that would carry him back to the child. He bled, he wept, but he lived. And in that fragile breath, in that thinnest thread of survival, something ancient stirred in him again. Not power, not vengeance, purpose. He was not whole, but he was not nothing. Vader watched the stars from the landing platform, his saber dimming into silence. His prey had fled, but not forever. He had seen the fear in his old master's eyes, the doubt, the despair, but beneath it, a flicker. Something survived in Kenobi, and that could not be allowed. Vader turned. Obi-Wan was no longer his brother, no longer his past. He would become the test, the final severance, and still, across the galaxy, the girl laughed softly in her sleep, unaware that gods and ghosts were moving for her. The Force listened, and did not speak. It waited. 17. The final rematch. There are places in the galaxy that do not appear on maps. Worlds where time forgets to pass, where the stars do not name themselves. It was on such a world, barren, silent, soaked in ash and dusk, that the final truth waited. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood beneath twin moons. They watched him like silent witnesses, pale and distant, offering neither warmth nor judgment. His robes were dust-stained, his hands weathered. The lightsaber at his side pulsed faintly. Remembering how to breathe, he had come alone, but he was not alone. The Force hummed differently now, not loud, not insistent, like the tide at night, slow and inevitable. It no longer commanded. It invited, and he listened. Across the rocks, a shadow emerged. No pretense, no army, no mask to hide behind. Darth Vader, he walked like fate. The breath still came like thunder through metal lungs, but it no longer terrified Obi-Wan, because now, at last, he understood what stood before him. Not Anakin, not a brother, only what remained. They did not speak at first. The wind passed between them, carrying with it all the years, the screams of Mustafar, the children slain in the temple, the fire that split them forever, and beneath it the memory of laughter, of shared meals, of hope. That memory was a ghost now. I will finish. This, Vader said. Obi-Wan met his gaze. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. Vader paused. I did. The sabers ignited blue and red. Night and flame. The clash lit the sky like a forgotten war. They fought not as men, but as myths, as the truths that could not coexist. Obi-Wan moved not with rage, but with clarity. Every strike was earned, every step chosen. He was not the man who ran, not anymore. Vader pressed forward, strength without restraint. His blows were thunder, grinding rock, breaking ground. But Obi-Wan danced between them, not with speed, but with grace. He no longer fought to win. He fought to understand, and in that understanding he found strength. They shattered cliffs. They scarred the land. Stone fell like rain around them. You have grown weak, old man. Vader spat. Obi-Wan stood firm. No, I just stopped being afraid of you. He struck, fast, clean, direct. Vader reeled. Sparks burst. Wires tore. The mask cracked. Obi-Wan hesitated beneath the broken armor. For one heartbeat, he saw him, a face half-shadowed, eyes half-dash, lost. Anakin. He stepped back. Vader looked up. His voice, half-distorted, half-human, echoed through the quiet. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. Tears welled in Obi-Wan's eyes. He nodded. Then my friend is truly gone. And with that, the saber dimmed. Obi-Wan turned. He did not strike the final blow. He walked away. Vader did not follow. Obi-Wan did not flee. They had fought their last battle, not for victory, not for power, for truth. Obi-Wan left behind the ghost of his brother and returned to the stars. He carried no triumph, only sorrow. But within that sorrow, peace. He was no longer hunted. He was no longer hiding. He had faced the shadow and survived with his soul intact. And somewhere far away, a boy looked up at the night sky, unaware of the war just ended in silence. 18. The Ghost and the Guide. Tatooine breathes. Not with wind, not with water, but with heat, with memory, with time that folds and creases like old cloth. And in that breath, he waits. Obi-Wan Kenobi is no longer Jedi General, no longer Master, no longer brother. He is a shadow among suns, a ghost among the living. In the wastes, he walks without name. His robes are simple, his steps slow. The galaxy believes him dead, and perhaps, in some ways, it is right. Each morning, he rises before the suns. Each night, he watches the stars. There is no one to speak to, save the silence. But he is never truly alone. He watches the boy looked from a distance, always a distance. Owen Lars guards the child fiercely, not out of hate, but out of fear. Fear of the weight Obi-Wan brings, fear of the stories, of what the boy might become. But Obi-Wan does not interfere. He simply watches, a protector unseen, a sentinel made of dust and will. The cave is his temple now, the wind, his scripture. He meditates not for power, but for stillness. He reaches, not for control, but for connection. The Force no longer roars through him. It hums, soft, ancient, low, like a river under stone, sometimes in dreams. He sees Anakin, still burning, still screaming, still reaching for a hand that never returned. Other times, he sees Qui-Gon, but only as an echo, a memory that flits just beyond reach. He speaks into the dark, "Master, I am ready now." Silence answers, time stretches, and still he waits. Years pass like grains of sand through his fingers. The galaxy twists further. The Empire spreads its iron breath. Jedi are hunted like ghosts in children's tales. Inquisitors bleed across systems, dragging truth into darkness. But Obi-Wan is not hunted. He has buried himself deeper than fear, and yet something stirs, a presence, soft but undeniable, a stirring in the Force like a ripple across still water, a warmth at the edge of cold dot one night. As stars wheel overhead, the silence breaks, not with wind, not with sound, with a voice, gentle, familiar, double quotes, Obi-1. He opens his eyes. Qui-Gon Jinn stands before him, not as flesh, not as dream, but as spirit, light-shaped like memory, form-shaped by faith. Obi-1 falls to his knees. "I failed him," he whispers. "I failed them all." Qui-Gon's voice is not condemning. It is the voice of stars long extinguished, the voice of rivers under ice, the voice of a master who always saw beyond failure. "You did what you could. You held the line." Obi-Wan's hands tremble. "I let him fall. You couldn't save him from his path, but you saved the boy." Silence again, not empty full. Qui-Gon's gaze lifts to the horizon, where the Lars homestead sits like a memory on the sand. The future is not written in certainty, only in choice. Obi-Wan breathes deeply, as if for the first time in decades. "I am tired," he says. Qui-Gon nods. "So was I." Obi-Wan rises, not reborn, not redeemed, but real. He walks to the ridge and watches Luke Skywalker chase the wind with arms outstretched, imagining wings, hope, not yet a Jedi, not yet a savior, but hope. The Force moves quietly now. No longer a tempest, no longer a command, just a presence, a guide, and Obi-Wan listens. He smiles, faintly, tiredly, truly. For the first time in many years, he is not haunted, he is at peace. In time, the years will call him to one final act. A corridor of death, a lightsaber falling with no resistance, a body vanishing into light, a whisper into a boy's ear. But not yet, for now. He watches, he waits, he becomes the ghost, and the galaxy forgets. But the Force remembers always.